Hey guys, Odin here. We're back with another episode of Overwatch Champions, and this time we're going to be covering the defense on Hollywood. This is one that I get a lot of questions about, and Hollywood is a pretty interesting map, particularly on the second point. Many teams struggle to effectively deal with the first and second points on this map, so let's talk about some setups that'll help you counter common attack strategies. On payload and assault maps, you always want to be in a situation where a flanker is something that you can easily deal with and isn't going to pull your attention away from a choke point. Allowing a flanker to reach the point and pull you away from that choke point then allows the attacking team to spread out and take advantage of the chaos. So for this reason, on the first point of Hollywood, you should avoid being pushed up past the balcony or into the computer room as much as possible. It's really common to have a DPS with an escape ability playing around the balcony area to deny flankers from freely pushing up the alleyway or the balcony stairs, and another DPS to play on bar with a support pocketed away. The rest of the team plays on point, pushed up to the corner of the balcony to deny free spacing from the enemy, and pumping damage to anyone sticking out from the Reinhardt's shield. An important thing to note is that the elevator can be particularly useful for a mid or long range DPS such as Soldier or McCree, although in the recent nerf to McCree's range, he's not quite as useful in this area. Depending on what the attacking team is running and who you have on defense, it can be really difficult to deal with a player sitting up on the elevator. Really, the only hero that comes to mind that effectively deals with this might be a Pharah and possibly a Widowmaker or a Hanzo, though those are less common picks on attack. Defense on the first point is pretty straightforward, but keep in mind that if you're playing a tank, you do not want to rush the enemy team. There are very few situations where this pays off, and in most cases you're just going to get yourself killed and end up with putting your team into a 5v6. The only times you ever really want to push out this choke point is after you've won a fight on defense and you're just trying to pick off some stragglers, but you should be really mindful of the enemy team respawns because you don't want to run into reinforcements. The second point of Hollywood is a little bit like the first point on Gibraltar, where you want to give your enemy some space, because pushing up into their faces can often mean you get flanked, and since their spawn is so close and yours is a bit further back, this can be really costly. The attackers are basically given free payload for about 40 to 50 meters, since, like I said, defending by this first point is suicide, and if you try to play on top of the store or in the alleyway, it doesn't really give you great angles of attack or defense. The ideal setup for second point is to play on top of the saloon, utilizing the lift to get on top and setting up just overlooking the payload lane. Using Reinhardt's shield as I've demonstrated here, your team can safely rain down on the attackers pushing the payload, and it makes it difficult for the enemy team to really flank you since there are only two angles of approach and you can see them both. If the enemy team is smart, they may try to group up and take the elevator on top of bank to push you, but you can also counter this by just playing behind Reinhardt's shield and spamming them out. And while they're doing this, they're not really getting any advantage of pushing the payload. Once the payload is pushed up close enough, usually about 10 meters away from the bridge, you can drop down and push into them. This tactic is extremely disruptive, especially if you have ults. Earthshatter and Graviton in particular excel here. Remember though, if you drop down and win the fight, you should immediately focus on resetting to the high ground and prepare for another assault. Utilizing this setup effectively can just flat out deny the attacking team from this point, and I've actually seen a lot of games held right there. If you lose this fight and the payload is pushed towards the jail where you're not really able to get back on top of the saloon, it can be extremely difficult to hold out and push them from getting to the doors, especially since a competent team will actually take the saloon high ground. If the enemy team is close and you still have teammates respawning, it's a good idea to stay and defend them, and then move together as a team to the third point, since they'll be respawning very close to the attacking team before the door's checkpoint, and it's common practice for the attacking team to send a few heroes in to rush down stragglers from second defender's spawn. If your entire team is grouped up, you can actually catch this attack strategy off guard and get an early wipe that'll buy you some time, but remember to back up quickly as the attack spawns pretty close as well. The third point is a bit of a mess, as anyone who's ever played Hollywood probably knows. The attacking team has a lot of options, but the defending team does as well, and I'm sure you've had a Reaper drop down from balcony with Death Blossom a handful of times and wipe your team on either side. For this reason, it can be really tricky to play on this choke point. When the payload is still around the second bend or near the security or crates, it's a good idea to keep a few players up top to prevent a flank, and the rest playing near the garage doors and by wood boxes, since they can quickly fall back if things go sour. You should try to keep an eye on the upper balcony area at all times, because if you let an attacker get in there, or a couple attackers get in there, and they have big ults, they can control that position and it can be disastrous for you. A great way to deal with this point is to just stay spread out around the garage doors with 1 or 2 players up top denying flanks and raining down damage. A really common way for attackers to deal with defenders playing up on security or balcony is to send a Winston and a Reaper or maybe a Genji up top, so just be really careful if you're fighting them because losing these players can cost you the entire payload. As always, communicating enemy positions is pretty important, but especially so here, since there's a lot of cover and ways to quickly be pushed, and there's a lot of ways for the attacking team to sneak attack you from above or to the left, and they can overrun and split your team. Try to be mindful of your positioning, and don't let the attacking team split you up for easy picks. That covers most of the key elements of defending Hollywood, but I definitely would recommend watching some tournament level play on this map to give you some solid examples of how to execute these strategies. I'm really hoping that the replay feature is added to the game soon, since we can cover these topics much better without having to visualize everything. Let me know in the comments section below which map you think is the hardest to defend, or which point in particular. And also, if you haven't already, check out our website. You can also click down here for episodes 4 and 5. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel to keep up to date on the latest videos. We'll see you next time, and Torbjorn, what's our tagline again? Oh, darn piece of junk microphone. There we go. Be the hammer. Oh, yep, that's it. Thanks.